Hello and welcome to another Doctor Who Big Finish video. In today's Doctor Who Big Finish video, I'll be looking at the second main range story of the year, Ghost Walk. Hopefully I'm pointing to it. Yeah, there it is, Ghost Walk, which is a release I've been excited for. It's by James Goss, who's a writer I really like. And when the title of the story was announced, I was like, that sounds really interesting. The synopsis was revealed. It sounded like my perfect cup of tea, no pun intended. The cover was announced, it just looked really gorgeous and spooky. It just seemed like a really great story. And then the trailer was put on the website and I listened to it. I thought, yeah, this is a contender to be one of the best releases for 2018. And we're only just in March. So you can tell that I've been incredibly excited for this release. So we'll be seeing whether this is a typical Doctor Who spooky story or is it a spooky story with a twist. So you'll find out in this review. But before I actually look at Ghost Walk and do the presentation for this, if you want to know my full thoughts on the first story from this trilogy, The Kingdom of Lies, then please do check out that review, which I will leave a link in the description below so you can check out that review if you want to. So without further ado, let's look at the presentation. So taking a look at the cover art, I absolutely love this cover art because it gives me Visitation vibes, and if you know me, the Visitations is probably my favourite Davison story. So we've got Sabaoth there, the Fifth Doctor, Adric, Nyssa, the TARDIS there, and Tegan looking very disturbed. We've got the Earth with the nice sort of street background with sort of a nice blue tint to it. We've got the Fifth Doctor banner there, and the spine and the back. So if you want to know more about the story, then you can. And we have the cast list down there, and the total running time being 120 minutes. So taking a look at the leaflet now, we have advertisements for the third instalment in the Fifth Doctor trilogy, The Serpent in the Silver Mask, which is probably going to be out next week. We have advertising for Doctor Who magazine, and we have production credits there, and the reversible cover. And the disc art is exactly the same for both. So did the hype and anticipation pay off? Absolutely. This is a true gem of a story by James Goss. The way the narrative is done is just very clever, weaving in this timey-wimey element, meaning you get the impression that this is a collection of short stories, but overall it's just one story. Now the story does use the horror format to its advantage, using classic horror tropes like possession, exorcism and isolation. The story also has an interesting theme as it plays with the companions' faith, but they know that the Doctor will save them no matter what. But the Doctor doesn't have that faith. So what happens when you put the companions in peril and the Doctor can't save them? Now this story really pushes the Doctor to his breaking point, and I will say that this is a fantastic story on a fantastic first listen. That you really enjoy on first listen, and when you re-listen to this story you pick up on little details of the story. It's like Heaven Sent. The more you watch it, the more you pick up on little details of the plot. This is very much the same effect, and I know that's quite a bold statement to compare Heaven Sent to this story, but this story does remind me very much of Heaven Sent to a degree, especially in the Fifth Doctor section of the story, as we see the Fifth Doctor really pushed to breaking point within the story. Part 1 wastes no time with throwing you in with somebody screaming on a ghost walk, and I think that really helps build the atmosphere of the story. And we also get a little bit of humour within that section of the story as well. And it's quite interesting to see how horror and comedy are this very much unlikely pairing, but they work wonderfully together as you are immersed on this Ghost Walk tour. And we are introduced to the main supporting character, LeAnn, the tour guide. And she certainly is an interesting character as she keeps hearing voices. So that sort of Ghost Walk lasts for about 7 minutes, and that really helps world build with us learning more about the catacombs and the history. And then we have the opening title, so don't worry if you think there's a fault with the Doctor Who theme not playing. And after the opening credits, the Doctor and his crew arrive in the catacombs. The sound design in that is just brilliant because you get the sense of this presence and gives this rather unsettling feel and feels rather claustrophobic at times, and the story continues to raise questions like what is wrong with the TARDIS, who is the patient man, and who is Sabaoth. And the cliffhanger is really impactful and makes you even more intrigued, and overall this part is just tense, creepy and thrilling, and just you get the odd funny line and even a joke about Peter Cushing. It's just a wonderful opening episode to this story. Part 2 starts off really strange, but it will make more sense when you reach the end of the episode. Now I never realised that this story would go down sort of the historical route, so we go to 17th century again, which we get a nice little joke about the Visitation within this, because obviously that's set in the 17th century as well. And this is very much the aftermath of the final 3 minutes of episode 1, and personally I feel that this episode is Nyssa's episode. This is where Nyssa really shined, because we see a bit of 17th century romance blossom between her and the Reverend Matthew, who is played by the person who played Waris Hussein in Adventure in Space and Time, and he's just a wonderful, warm, sweet character within this. and that causes some lovely interaction between her and Nyssa. We are introduced to the cult of Sabaoth on the Adric side of the story, and this is when Sabaoth really starts to be fleshed out within this part. So we get a nice balance of the Doctor and Tegan trapped in the catacombs, while Nyssa and Adric are free roaming around. But you still have the claustrophobic side to the story as well, and the cliffhanger. What a double whammy. This is essentially 2 cliffhangers in one. Part 3, this is when things get a bit more paradoxical and we start to answer some of the questions within the story. So we learn about whose voice LeAnn is hearing, what happened to the Doctor. And this part really, you understand the scale and how dangerous Sabaoth is. And we see the Doctor go head to head with Sabaoth, which is a real highlight of this episode for me. And we get some real more horror elements thrown in within this story. And the final 3 minutes are just really sinister, and just what a cliffhanger. This episode is very much the Doctor and Tegan's episode, because they didn't really get much to do in episode 2, so the story does have a nice balance for each part. Characters do get their moments to shine, and episode 3 certainly is the Doctor and Tegan's part. Part 4, the end of the world is beginning. The way the 5th Doctor describes the upcoming evil is great as Sabaoth rises, but the main problem I have with this episode, it goes down a very scientific direction, which I just didn't really think worked for the story, and I think that's my only criticism for this story personally. But the story does have a great thing. This is a great little revelation which I've just sort of noticed, is if you paid quite close attention to this, that you'll notice that the locations featured throughout the story are in the Ghost Walk tour. So it's quite nice how all that sort of links back to part 1. The events what happened on the Ghost Walk happened to the Doctor's companion, so it's quite nice how that all links back to part 1, which I really like. But I think that's a real clever idea. Personally, I think that's a wonderful idea. I really like that. Now, LeAnn just really shines within this episode, and I think that the way James Goss does the resolution for the cliffhangers is just really clever, and it just wraps up everything nicely personally, how it just ties back into part 1. And the cliffhangers are just all wrapped up nicely within this story. Characters, the Doctor. Davison gives a fantastic performance, as his Doctor is really pushed to the limits, as you do get heaven-sent vibes to a degree with this, and it's interesting to see how he develops throughout this story, as he's fascinated by the catacombs, but he's nervous and he's quite unsettled by the presence what feature within this, and by part 3 he just really shines and gets some fantastic moments. But at heart we do get that youthful gent. Nyssa, Sarah Sutton, she does a wonderful job within this, as we see a different side to Nyssa. Putting her in a romantic situation is very interesting to see how she deals with it, because she's very much a bright and practical character. We also learn more about Traken society, as they don't understand fear. Fear is just an odd concept to them, and it's very interesting. She's very urgent to find her friends, and Sarah Sutton just does a wonderful job within this story. I love it. Tegan, played by Janet Fielding, again a great performance within part 1 and 3. That's when Tegan really gets to shine, and we get some real heartwarming scenes between her and the 5th Doctor, with Tegan comforting the Doctor. But we also have some funny moments from Tegan with her air hostess skills, becoming very useful. But don't worry, we also have classic Tegan moments with her being quite tetchy and quite argumentative. So don't worry, Tegan's not so soft within this release. Adric, played by Matthew Waterhouse, a nice performance, but I will say Adric isn't used that much within the story. I don't think he appears in episode 3 at all. So yeah, it's very Adric-like, this story, so that could be a good thing for you. But I like what bits he does have, with him reassuring Nyssa. But we do have classic Adric, stealing food. Does that boy ever learn from, Full Circle when he tried to steal one of the, was it the river fruits? But yeah, and that's basically his downfall, especially in part 2, Adric. But yeah, Adric gets a fantastic speech in part 2 when he's confronting the Brotherhood, and I think that episode 2 is when Adric really shines within this story. Felony Walgar, who played LeAnn, who you might know, who played Agatha Christie in Unicorn and the Wasp. Just a wonderful character, and she just does a wonderful job playing LeAnn. LeAnn just really helps build the atmosphere. She's just a troubled character with her business failing, and she has quite an interesting dynamic with the Doctor, and I think that part 4 is when LeAnn really shines within this episode. So what are my concluding thoughts on Ghost Walk? As you can tell from the review, I've been really positive. I just really like it. It's just a real clever story on how everything links back to part 1 and just fits together. It's just a real nice jigsaw piece, and it's quite nice that you think that it's an anthology, but it's just one story. So I think that's real clever storytelling done by James Goss. The story has a real broad scale to it, which I really like. which I think is nice, with all these different environments being explored, which I think is fantastic. And this is just a perfect nighttime listen. You know, the story, I found myself really immersed within it. Sabaoth, I think, is absolutely chilling. Stephen Grief does a brilliant job, and the sound design for him is just perfect. It's just a perfect little horror story with bits of humour thrown in, just to make it a bit more less heavy, really. And I just think that it's a great character piece, and just a wonderful story with overarching tension. So I'm going to give Ghostwalk a 9 celeries out of 10. Just a wonderful release, and I'm glad that the hype paid off, because normally hype is a dangerous thing. But yeah, wonderful story. You're just seeing the Fifth Doctor kind of put in that sort of heaven-sent environment, with him being contained in the catacombs. It's just a really wonderful thing with a lot of tension, and the threat level's brilliant. And just, yeah, I absolutely love Ghostwalk. I cannot praise it enough. But like I said, my only little nitpick is the ending, with the sort of scientific side to it. Just the resolution for the cliffhangers are great, but yeah, the scientific side didn't gel right with me throughout this, you know, the way the story sort of tied everything up. But personally, I think that it's a great story, and I highly recommend it. Unlike Kingdom of Lies, where I was like, you might want to be cautious with this, where Ghostwalk, I can firmly say I highly recommend this. So yeah, that concludes this review for Ghostwalk, and I will see you in my next Big Finish review, which will be quite an exciting one, a highly anticipated release for many Big Finish fans, and that is this, Gallifrey Time War Volume 1. So that'll be my next video. So yeah, hope you look forward to that, and I'll see you in my next Big Finish review, which is Gallifrey Time War. Ooh, yes. So thank you very much for watching this review, and I'll see you in Gallifrey Time War Volume 1. So thank you very much, and bye-bye.